They lied to me, saying my father was dying of cancer, just to get me to pay for a luxury trip to Hawaii and take care of their kids while they partied. Mom sobbed dramatically. The doctors say he only has days left. Sister cried fake tears. We need this last family memory before he's gone forever. Dad even played along. I want to see the ocean one more time before I die. I transferred the $25,000 for their final family trip and agreed to watch 5 children for 2 weeks. I smiled and carried out a plan that dismantled their lives piece by piece right before their eyes. I should have known something was wrong when my mother called me at 2 a.m., sobbing hysterically into the phone. Ellen had always been dramatic, but this felt different. Her voice cracked as she delivered the news that would change everything. Brandon, you need to come home right away. It's your father. The doctors say he doesn't have much time left. My blood ran cold. Dad had been complaining about feeling tired lately, but I'd chalked it up to his age. At 64, Lawrence was getting older, and family history of heart disease had always been a concern. Cancer, though? That came out of nowhere. What kind of cancer? I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. Pancreatic, she whispered back, and I felt my world crumble. Everyone knows pancreatic cancer is essentially a death sentence. The doctors say he is maybe weeks, possibly days if we're unlucky. I was on the first flight out of Chicago the next morning, my successful consulting business forgotten as I rushed home to Portland, Oregon. The 4-hour flight felt like an eternity as I replayed every conversation I'd had with Dad over the past months, searching for signs I might have missed. When I arrived at the family home, the scene was exactly what I'd expected from a family in crisis. Mom was red-eyed and trembling, Dad looked pale and weak, and my sister Courtney was there with her husband Kevin and their 3 kids, Ava, 7, Maya, 9, and Caleb, 12, plus my brother Jason with his wife Tina and their 2 children, Tommy, 4, and Grace, 10. The house felt heavy with grief and desperation. Dad pulled me aside that first evening, his hand shaking as he gripped my shoulder. Son, I need to ask you something, and it's going to sound crazy given the circumstances. Anything, Dad. What do you need? His eyes filled with tears, something I'd never seen before. I want to take the family to Hawaii. One last trip before. He couldn't finish the sentence. I know it's expensive, and I know the timing is terrible, but I need to see the ocean one more time. I need to make memories with my grandchildren while I still can. The request hit me like a truck. Hawaii wasn't cheap, especially for a family of 12. But looking at my father's face, seeing the fear and hope warring in his eyes, I knew I couldn't say no. How much are we talking about? I asked, though I'd already decided the answer didn't matter. About $45,000 for all of us. I know it's a lot, Brandon, but you're the only one who has that kind of money available right now, and we want to stay at a truly nice resort where we can make proper final memories. It was true. My consulting firm had been incredibly successful, and I'd been careful with my investments. $45,000 would hurt, but it wouldn't break me. More importantly, what was money compared to giving my dying father one last wish? Done, I said without hesitation. I'll transfer the money tomorrow. That's when Courtney spoke up, her voice thick with tears. There's just one problem, Brandon. Kevin and I can't afford to take time off work right now, we're both up for promotions, and with Dad's medical bills piling up. She looked ashamed. Would you be willing to watch the kids while we're gone? I know it's a huge ask, but we trust you more than anyone. 5 children, ages 4 to 12, for 2 weeks. It would mean putting my business on hold, but family comes first. Of course, I said. Whatever Dad needs. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. I transferred the money without hesitation, watching my savings account take a significant hit. The family was overwhelmed with gratitude, with Mom crying and thanking me over and over. Dad hugged me tighter than he had since I was a child. You're a good son, Brandon, he whispered. I'm proud of the man you've become. The night before they left, I sat with Dad on the back porch, sharing a beer and watching the sunset. He seemed more at peace than I'd seen him since the diagnosis. Are you scared? I asked. He was quiet for a long moment. Terrified, he admitted. But knowing I'll get to see Hawaii, knowing my family will have these last memories together. It makes it bearable. They left on a Thursday morning, and I was left with 5 kids ranging from little Tommy, who was 4, to Caleb, who was 12 and thought he was too cool for babysitting. The first few days were chaotic but manageable. I'd arranged for my business partner Danielle to handle the most urgent matters while I was away, and I threw myself into uncle duty. It was on the 4th day that everything changed. I was helping Ava with a puzzle when Caleb came running into the living room, his face flushed with excitement. Uncle Mike, look what I found. He was holding Mom's iPad, which she'd left behind by accident. The family computer in the den was logged into everyone's social media accounts. They'd always shared passwords for emergency purposes, something I'd never taken advantage of until now. Caleb had been using the iPad to access these accounts when he stumbled across the group text message thread, and what I saw made my blood freeze. Ellen, OMG, this resort is amazing. The spa treatments are incredible. Courtney, right? And the kids are taken care of so we can actually relax. This is the best vacation ever. Jason, pool bar is calling my name. Thanks again for making this possible, bro. Lawrence, just had the best massage of my life. Feeling very much alive and well. Kevin, 2 weeks of paradise without kids. Brandon's the best sucker. I mean brother-in-law ever. Tina, should we feel bad about lying about the cancer thing? Nah, Brandon can afford it. Courtney, Dad's performance was Oscar-worthy. I almost believed he was dying myself. Ellen, my poor son is probably changing diapers right now while we're sipping my ties. He's always been too trusting. The iPad slipped from my hands and clattered to the floor. Caleb looked up at me with confusion. Uncle Mike? Are you okay? You look really pale. I couldn't speak. I literally couldn't form words. My entire family, my parents, my siblings, their spouses, had conspired to lie to me about my father dying of cancer. They'd manipulated my love for my family, my fear of losing Dad, my sense of responsibility, to trick me into funding their luxury vacation while I provided free childcare. The betrayal was so complete, so calculated, that I felt physically sick. I ran to the bathroom and threw up, my hands shaking as I gripped the toilet bowl. But as I sat there on the bathroom floor, something shifted inside me. The shock began to transform into something else. Something cold and calculating. They thought I was a sucker. They thought I was weak, easily manipulated, too trusting for my own good. They had no idea who they were dealing with. I built a multi-million-dollar consulting business from nothing. I'd negotiated deals with Fortune 500 companies. I'd outmaneuvered competitors who tried to destroy me. I was successful because I was smart, strategic, and when necessary, ruthless. My family was about to learn that lesson the hard way. I spent the next hour reading through months of their text messages, and what I discovered was even worse than I'd imagined. This wasn't their first scam. They'd been systematically manipulating me for years, just in smaller ways. Emergency car repairs that turned out to be elective upgrades. Medical bills that were actually credit card debt from shopping sprees. Kids' school expenses that funded their date nights. But this was different. This was a $45,000 lie about my father dying. This was 2 weeks of my life sacrificed. This was the complete destruction of my trust in the people who were supposed to love me most. They wanted to play games? Fine. I'd been playing games at the highest level for years. The difference was, I played to win. First, I called my lawyer, Karen Mitchell. She'd been handling my business affairs for years and had become a trusted friend. Karen, I need you to do something for me, and I need you to do it immediately. I need you to file a lawsuit against my family for fraud. Brandon, slow down. What happened? I explained the entire situation, reading her selected messages from the text thread. Karen was silent for a long moment. Brandon, this is incredibly cruel. And yes, it's absolutely fraud. Wire fraud, specifically, since you transferred money based on false pretenses. The damages are clear, and with these text messages as evidence, it's an open and shut case. How much are we talking about? With emotional distress, punitive damages, and the cost of the childcare you provided? Conservatively, you're looking at 6 figures. Possibly more. File it immediately. I want them served with papers the moment they step off that plane. Consider it done. Brandon, I have to ask, are you sure about this? These are your family members. They stopped being my family the moment they decided to lie about Dad dying to steal my money. Next, I called my accountant, Eric Lynn. Eric, I need you to prepare a detailed financial analysis of every penny I've given to my family over the past 5 years. Every loan, every gift, every emergency payment. I want it all documented. That's going to be a substantial amount, Brandon. Are you sure you want to see this? I'm sure. The number was staggering. Over the past 5 years, I'd given my family members nearly $200,000. Not loaned, given. Money I'd never expected back because I thought I was helping family members in genuine need. But now I knew the truth. I'd been their personal ATM, and they'd been pressing withdrawal buttons with increasingly elaborate lies. The third call was to my business partner, Danielle Brooks. Danielle, I need you to take over operations for the next week. I have a family emergency to handle. Of course, Brandon. Is everything okay? It will be. Now came the strategic part. Since the family computer had everyone logged into their social media accounts, and they'd left it behind, I had legitimate access to post updates. I spent the next several hours crafting the perfect social media posts. Nothing defamatory, nothing that could get me in legal trouble, but posts that would raise some very interesting questions among their friends and coworkers. On Mom's Facebook, feeling so blessed to be in Hawaii with the family. Sometimes you just need to treat yourself to a luxury vacation. Life's too short not to enjoy the finer things. #Hawaii, #luxury life, #family time. On Dad's Facebook, greetings from paradise. Never felt more alive than I do right now on this beautiful Hawaiian beach. Amazing what a little R&R can do for a man. #Hawaii, #feeling alive, #bless life. On Courtney's Instagram, when your brother is rich enough to fund your dream vacation and babysit your kids for free. #blessed, #family love, #Hawaii, #living my best life. On Jason's Twitter, reminder, having a successful brother who's too trusting for his own good is the best financial planning strategy ever. Hashtag family first, hashtag Hawaii, hashtag vacation life. I scheduled them to post at various times over the next few days, ensuring maximum exposure among their social circles. But I wasn't done. Not even close. I made some calls to mutual friends and extended family members, not to gossip, but to casually mention how wonderful it was that Dad was feeling so much better. How miraculous his recovery from cancer had been. How inspired I was by his strength in overcoming such a terrible diagnosis. "Oh, you didn't know Lawrence had cancer?" I'd say with perfectly feigned surprise. Well, maybe I shouldn't say anything. The family's been very private about it. But his recovery has been rekevinable. He went from being on death's door to healthy enough for a luxury vacation in Hawaii in just a few days. It's really quite something. I planted seeds of doubt everywhere I could, always careful to frame it as celebration of Dad's miraculous recovery rather than accusation of deception. The social media posts started going live on their second day in Hawaii. My phone began buzzing with confused messages from friends and family members. "Brandon, I'm so confused. I thought your dad was dying of cancer? But he looks pretty healthy in these Hawaii pictures. Hey, didn't you tell me your dad was terminal?" These Facebook posts are making it sound like he's on vacation, not fighting for his life. "I'm seeing some really strange posts from your family about Hawaii. Is everything okay?" I responded to each message with carefully crafted confusion. "I'm not sure what you mean. Dad's been feeling much better lately, which is why he wanted to take this trip." "Why do you ask?" The confusion spread like wildfire. By day 3, the social media posts had generated dozens of comments and messages. Friends and coworkers were asking direct questions about the apparent contradiction between a dying man and a man posting poolside selfies. That's when I received my first panicked call from Hawaii. "Brandon." Courtney's voice was shrill with panic. "What did you do? My boss is asking questions about why I'm in Hawaii when I said I needed time off for a family emergency." "I'm not sure what you mean," I said calmly. "I haven't done anything except take care of your children like you asked." The social media posts, "Brandon. Someone's been posting on our accounts. That's strange. Have you been hacked? You should probably change your passwords. Don't play dumb with me. I know you have our passwords. Courtney, I think you're confused. I'm just here taking care of the kids while you spend time with Dad during his recovery. How is Dad, by the way? He looked great in those poolside photos." The line went quiet for a moment. "Brandon. We need to talk." "I'm sure we do. But not while you're on vacation. Enjoy Hawaii. We'll have plenty to discuss when you get back." I hung up before she could respond. The calls kept coming. Mom, Dad, Jason, even Kevin and Tina. Each call was more panic than the last as their lives began unraveling in real time. Friends were asking pointed questions. Coworkers were demanding explanations. The contradictions were becoming impossible to ignore. But I was just getting started. While they were panicking in paradise, I was methodically building my case from home. The 5 children had become unwitting allies in my investigation. Caleb, the 12-year-old who'd discovered the text messages, had started asking me pointed questions about the miracle recovery. "Uncle Mike," he said one evening while I was helping him with homework, "if Grandpa was really dying, why is he posting pictures of himself doing water sports?" "That's a good question, Caleb. What do you think?" "I think maybe he was never really sick," Caleb said quietly. "I think maybe they lied to you." The kid was sharp. Too sharp to be fooled by his family's deception. I could see the wheels turning in his head as he processed the implications of what his parents and grandparents had done. "How does that make you feel?" I asked carefully. "Mad," he said without hesitation. "And embarrassed. If they lied to you about something that's serious, what else have they lied about?" It was a fair question, and one that I'd been grappling with myself. The discovery of this massive deception had made me question every interaction I'd had with my family for years. How many of their emergencies had been fabricated? How many times had I been manipulated without realizing it? I spent my evenings going through old emails, text messages, and bank records, creating a comprehensive timeline of their requests for financial help. The pattern was disturbing. Every few months, someone in the family would have a crisis that required my immediate financial intervention. Car breakdowns, medical emergencies, school expenses, home repairs, the list was endless. What made it worse was how they'd structured their requests. They never asked directly for money. Instead, they'd share their problems and express despair about their inability to handle the situation financially. Then they'd mention, almost as an afterthought, how fortunate I was to be so successful. They'd plant the seed and wait for me to offer help, making me feel like the solution was my idea. It was psychological manipulation at its finest, and I'd fallen for it completely. During the day, while caring for the children, I continued my investigation. I reached out to contractors who had supposedly done work on Jason's house, only to discover that the emergency roof repair I'd funded had actually been a complete kitchen renovation. I contacted the medical billing department at the hospital where Mom claimed to have had expensive tests, only to learn that her insurance had covered everything and there were no outstanding bills. Every thread I pulled unraveled more lies. Every investigation revealed deeper deception. The $25,000 Hawaii scam wasn't an isolated incident, it was the culmination of years of systematic fraud. But what hurt most was the realization that they'd been laughing at me behind my back. I found more text messages, older ones, where they joked about my gullibility. Messages where Jason called me the family ATM and Courtney referred to me as our personal bank. Messages where Mom bragged about how easy it was to make me feel guilty enough to hand over money. They'd turned my love for family, my sense of responsibility, my desire to help, into a weakness they could exploit. They'd weaponized my success against me, making me feel obligated to fund their lifestyle choices because I was fortunate enough to afford it. The betrayal was so complete, so calculated, that I found myself questioning everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and family bonds. Had they ever truly cared about me, or had I always just been a source of income to them? As I sat in my childhood bedroom, the same room where I'd studied late into the night to get good grades, where I'd planned my business strategy, where I'd dreamed of success partly so I could take care of my family, I felt a rage so pure and focused that it surprised me. They thought they were so clever. They thought they'd found the perfect Kevin in their own brother and son. They thought my love for them made me weak and stupid. They were about to learn how wrong they were. I called my private investigator with additional instructions. Tom, I need you to expand the surveillance. I want to know everywhere they go, everything they do, everyone they talk to. I want a complete record of their activities. Brandon, that's going to be expensive. We're talking about round-the-clock surveillance of multiple targets. Money is no object. These people stole from me, lied to me, and manipulated me for years. I want documentation of every moment of their fraudulent vacation. You got it. But Brandon, can I ask what you're planning to do with this information? I'm going to make sure they face consequences for their actions. Real consequences that match the severity of what they've done. The surveillance reports that came back were infuriating. While I was changing diapers and helping with homework, they were living it up at a 5-star resort. Spa treatments, gourmet meals, helicopter tours, snorkeling expeditions, couples massages, they were spending my money on every luxury imaginable. The private investigators' photos showed them laughing, drinking, dancing, and clearly having the time of their lives. Not once did any of them look concerned about a dying family member. Not once did they appear to be people dealing with a medical crisis. But the most damning evidence came from the resort staff. Tom had interviewed several employees who remembered my family well. According to the concierge, Dad had bragged about pulling off the perfect scam to get his son to pay for the vacation. According to the bartender, Mom had laughed about how easy it was to make Brandon feel guilty about Dad's fake diagnosis. They weren't just stealing from me, they were bragging about it to strangers. That's when I knew there would be no mercy, no forgiveness, no family reconciliation. They had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. They had destroyed something that couldn't be repaired. But I was just getting started. I reached out to Dr. Anderson, Dad's actual physician, and scheduled a follow-up appointment for Dad's cancer treatment. When his office called to confirm the appointment, I expressed confusion. I'm sorry, but I think there's been a mistake. Lawrence Miller doesn't have cancer. He's actually in Hawaii right now, posting pictures on social media. Are you sure you have the right patient? The medical office was confused and concerned. They began making calls to verify what was going on, which led to more questions and more confusion in the family's social circle. I also reached out to Courtney's employer, expressing concern about her taking time off for a family emergency when she appeared to be on vacation in Hawaii. I framed it as worry about her well-being, suggesting that maybe she was having some kind of breakdown or being deceptive about her whereabouts. I'm just concerned about my sister, I told her supervisor. She said she needed time off for a family emergency, but she's posting vacation photos from Hawaii. I'm worried she might be going through something personal and making poor decisions. The supervisor was grateful for my concern and assured me they'd look into the situation. By day 5 of their vacation, the panic calls from Hawaii had become constant. Their carefully constructed lives were falling apart, and they were desperately trying to control the damage. But I wasn't done. Not even close. I hired a private investigator, Tom Bradley, to document their activities in Hawaii. Within 24 hours, I had video evidence of my dying father playing volleyball on the beach, participating in a snorkeling expedition, and dancing at a luau. The footage was time-stamped and verified, providing irrefutable proof that Lawrence Miller was not a man on his deathbed. I also had footage of the entire family enjoying spa treatments, fine dining, and participating in various recreational activities. They weren't behaving like a family spending final moments with a dying patriarch, they were partying like they were on the vacation of a lifetime. Which, of course, they were. On my dime. The private investigator's report was comprehensive and damning. I forwarded copies to my lawyer, my accountant, and kept several copies for my own records. On day 7, I received a call from Mom that was different from the others. Instead of panic, there was desperation. Brandon, please. We need to talk. There's been a misunderstanding. What kind of misunderstanding, Mom? About your father's condition. The doctors. They might have been wrong about the diagnosis. Are you telling me Dad doesn't have cancer? A long pause. The tests might have been inconclusive. So you're saying the doctors were wrong when they said he was dying? It's possible. And yet he felt well enough to travel to Hawaii and participate in beach volleyball? Another pause. Brandon, where are you going with this? I'm just trying to understand, Mom. Are you telling me that Dad was miraculously healed between the time you called me crying about his impending death and the time he posted shirtless beach photos on Facebook? Brandon, please. We can explain everything when we get home. I'm sure you can. I'm looking forward to that conversation. I hung up and smiled. They were finally starting to understand the magnitude of their mistake. But I still had more cards to play. On day 10, I implemented the next phase of my plan. I reached out to a local news station, not to create a scandal, but to provide a human interest piece about the importance of family during health crises. I explained how my father's miraculous recovery from terminal cancer had inspired our family to take a healing trip to Hawaii. It's really quite rekevinable, I told the reporter. The doctors said he had days to live, but look at him now, healthy enough for a Hawaiian vacation. It's given us all hope about the power of family love and positive thinking. I provided them with the social media posts and the private investigators' footage as evidence of Dad's amazing recovery. The reporter was fascinated by the story of a man who'd apparently overcome terminal cancer in a matter of days. The story was scheduled to air on the local evening news 2 days before my family returned from Hawaii. That evening, I received the most panicked call yet. Brandon. Dad's voice was barely controlled terror. What have you done? There's going to be a news story about my cancer recovery? I thought you'd be proud, Dad. Your miraculous recovery is inspirational. People need to hear stories of hope. Brandon, listen to me very carefully. I need you to stop this. Call the news station and tell them the story was a mistake. Why would I do that? You beat cancer, Dad. That's incredible news. Brandon, please. I'm begging you. Stop this before it goes too far. Goes too far? Dad, you're alive. You're healthy. You're in Hawaii posting vacation photos. What could go too far about celebrating your recovery? The line went quiet for a long moment. When Dad spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. Son, I never had cancer. What did you say? I never had cancer. We lied to you. Are you telling me that you, Mom, Courtney, and Jason all conspired to lie to me about you dying of cancer? Yes. So that I would pay for your vacation to Hawaii? Yes. And babysit the kids while you partied? Yes. For $25,000? Yes. Dad, I'm recording this conversation. Is that your full confession? Brandon, please. We made a mistake. A huge mistake. But please don't let this destroy our family. You destroyed the family the moment you decided to lie about cancer. You destroyed it the moment you decided I was someone you could manipulate and steal from. You destroyed it the moment you decided my love for you was something you could exploit. Brandon, we'll pay you back. We'll make this right. You'll pay me back with what money? You just spent $45,000 of my money on a luxury vacation. And this isn't the first time you've stolen from me. I've been tracking your lies for years. What do you mean? I mean I know about all of it. The fake car repairs. The fraudulent medical bills. The children's expenses that were actually your personal shopping sprees. All of it. The line went dead. Dad had hung up. Within an hour, I received calls from every member of my family currently in Hawaii. They were all in full panic mode, finally understanding that their lies had been completely exposed and that I had evidence of everything. But it was too late. The wheels were already in motion. The news story aired the next evening, featuring Dad's miraculous recovery from terminal cancer. The reporter interviewed several family friends who expressed amazement at his rapid healing and his ability to enjoy a Hawaiian vacation so soon after being given days to live. The story raised more questions than it answered, and the questions were exactly the ones I wanted raised. 2 days later, when my family returned from Hawaii, they were greeted at the airport by a process server who handed them legal documents. I had Karen file the papers the day before their return, giving the legal system time to properly process everything. They were being sued for fraud, conspiracy, and emotional distress. The lawsuit detailed every lie, every manipulation, every dollar they'd stolen from me over the years. The evidence was overwhelming. Text messages, social media posts, bank records, witness statements, and Dad's recorded confession. My lawyer Karen had built an airtight case that would be impossible to defend against. But the legal action was just the beginning. The news story had generated enough attention that other reporters began asking questions. How does someone recover from terminal pancreatic cancer in a matter of days? How does a dying man suddenly become healthy enough for beach volleyball? Why were family members posting about luxury vacations while claiming to be dealing with a medical emergency? The story gained traction, and not in a good way for my family. Courtney's employer launched an investigation into her use of emergency family leave for what appeared to be a luxury vacation. She was suspended pending review and ultimately terminated for falsifying company documents. Jason's company had a strict ethics policy regarding honesty and integrity. When they learned about the fraud scheme, they began their own investigation. Jason was placed on administrative leave and eventually fired. Mom and Dad became local pariahs. Friends stopped calling. Neighbors avoided them. The cancer lie had been so public and so thoroughly exposed that their reputation in the community was destroyed. Kevin and Tina's marriage didn't survive the stress. The financial pressure of losing Jason's income, combined with the shame of being associated with the fraud, led to constant fighting and eventual divorce. But the most devastating consequence was the loss of the children's trust. Caleb, who had found the text messages on the iPad, understood exactly what had happened. He knew his parents and grandparents had lied about Grandpa dying to steal money from Uncle Mike. He knew they'd manipulated someone's love to get what they wanted. The older children began acting out, ashamed of their parents' behavior and confused about who they could trust. Family therapy sessions became heated arguments about honesty and integrity. The 5 children I'd taken care of for 2 weeks began asking their parents pointed questions about the Hawaii trip. Why had they lied about Grandpa dying? Why had they stolen money from Uncle Mike? Why had they left their children to go party on a beach? The parents had no good answers. 3 months after the Hawaii trip, I received a call from Courtney. Her voice was barely recognizable, hollow, defeated, desperate. "Brandon, I need to talk to you. I'm listening. I've lost everything. My job, my reputation, my marriage is falling apart, and my children barely speak to me. Jason's in the same situation. Mom and Dad are completely isolated. We've all lost everything." "Okay. I'm calling to apologize. What we did was unforgivable. We betrayed your trust in the worst possible way. We exploited your love for family to steal from you. We made you believe Dad was dying when he wasn't. We manipulated you into caring for our children while we partied with your money. Yes, you did all of those things. I'm also calling to beg you to drop the lawsuit. We don't have the money to pay you back, and we can't afford to lose any more than we already have." "Courtney, you seem to think I'm the bad guy here. You seem to think I'm the one who destroyed the family." "No, I know we destroyed it. But Brandon, we're family. Doesn't that mean anything? It used to mean everything. That's why your betrayal hurts so much. That's why you were able to manipulate me so easily. Because I loved you all so much that I couldn't imagine you would lie to me about something so serious. Brandon, please. I have 3 children to think about. You should have thought about your children before you decided to commit fraud. You should have thought about them before you decided to teach them that lying and stealing are acceptable ways to get what you want. Brandon, I'm begging you. Courtney, I want you to understand something. This isn't about money anymore. This is about consequences. This is about justice. This is about making sure that what you did to me never happens to anyone else." "What do you mean?" "I mean that your story is going to be told. It's going to be a cautionary tale about family loyalty and the consequences of betrayal. It's going to be a lesson for anyone who thinks they can manipulate someone's love to get what they want. Brandon, please don't do this to us. I'm not doing anything to you. I'm simply allowing the consequences of your actions to play out. You created this situation. You made these choices. You destroyed these relationships. I'm just refusing to enable your behavior anymore. So you're not going to help us? Why would I help people who lied to me about my father dying to steal $45,000 of my money? Because we're family." "No, Courtney. We're not family anymore. Family doesn't lie about cancer. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't manipulate love to get what they want. You stopped being my family the moment you decided to betray me. Brandon, what if we pay you back? With what money? You're all unemployed. You've all lost your reputations. You've all lost the trust of your children and your community. You have nothing left to pay me back with. We could get jobs, make payment plans." "Courtney, the lawsuit isn't about the money. It's about justice. It's about making sure there are consequences for what you did. It's about ensuring that your children understand that actions have consequences and that lying and stealing are never acceptable." "So you're going to destroy us completely?" "I'm not destroying anything. I'm simply refusing to enable your destructive behavior anymore. You destroyed yourselves the moment you decided to lie about cancer." "Brandon, I don't know what else to say. There's nothing else to say. You made your choices. Now you get to live with the consequences." I hung up and felt a strange sense of peace. For the first time in months, I felt like justice was being served. The lawsuit proceeded as expected. My family had no defense for their actions, and the evidence was overwhelming. They were ordered to pay damages, though I knew they had no money to pay with. The important thing was the public record of their fraud, ensuring that their actions would follow them for years to come. 6 months later, I received a letter from Caleb, now 13 and living with his mother in a small apartment across town. Courtney had been forced to sell their house to pay legal fees. "Uncle Mike," the letter read, "I wanted to write to tell you that I understand why you did what you did. I was really angry at first because everyone was saying you destroyed our family. But then I realized that Mom and Dad and Grandma and Grandpa destroyed the family when they lied about cancer. They destroyed it when they stole from you. They destroyed it when they taught us that lying was okay if it got you what you wanted. I'm sorry they did that to you. I'm sorry they lied. I'm sorry they stole your money. I want you to know that I would never do something like that to someone I loved. I learned from their mistake. I hope someday you can forgive me for being part of a family that hurt you so badly." I read the letter 3 times, and for the first time since this whole ordeal began, I cried. Not from sadness, but from a strange mixture of grief and hope. Grief for the family relationships that had been destroyed by greed and deception. Hope that at least one of the children understood the difference between right and wrong. I wrote Caleb back, telling him that he was not responsible for his parents' actions and that I was proud of him for understanding the difference between right and wrong. I also included a check for his college fund, because despite everything, he was still my nephew, and he deserved a chance to build a better life. A year later, I've built a new life for myself. I've grown my business, made new friends, and learned to trust again, though more carefully than before. I've had no contact with my parents or siblings, and I don't plan to. The legal case made local news and eventually became a cautionary tale shared in online forums about family manipulation and fraud. My story has been told and retold, serving as a warning to others about the consequences of betraying family trust. Sometimes people ask me if I regret my response to their betrayal. They ask if I think I went too far, if I was too harsh, if I should have just accepted their apology and moved on. My answer is always the same: they didn't just steal my money. They stole my trust, my love, my sense of family, and my peace of mind. They weaponized my love for my father against me. They made me believe he was dying when he wasn't. They manipulated one of the deepest fears any child has, losing a parent, to get what they wanted. That level of betrayal requires consequences that match the severity of the crime. They didn't just lie about needing money for a car repair or a medical bill. They lied about cancer. They lied about death. They lied about the most serious things a family can lie about. And they did it all while looking me in the eye, watching me cry, and accepting my money with smiles on their faces. No, I don't regret my response. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that people I loved were capable of such betrayal. I regret that I was naive enough to trust them completely. But I don't regret ensuring that there were consequences for their actions. I don't regret making sure their story serves as a warning to others. I don't regret refusing to enable their destructive behavior. Sometimes people get exactly what they deserve. Sometimes the consequences match the crime. Sometimes justice actually prevails. This was one of those times. They wanted to play games with my love and trust. They thought I was weak, easily manipulated, too forgiving for my own good. They were wrong. I played the game better than they did, and I won. The price of their victory was everything they cared about. The price of my victory was learning that the family I thought I had never really existed in the first place. But sometimes, learning the truth is worth any price. Even when the truth destroys everything you thought you knew about the people you love most.